Echoes of Valor, the writing and poetry of the First World War and its reflection in the contemporary soldiers' struggle with warfare and human existence. The echoes of First World War writing and poetry continue to reverberate within the contemporary landscape of the American military experience. Most American soldiers serving today do not know the poetry of Rupert Brooke, Isaac Rosenberg, Ivor Gurney, Robert Graves, David Jones, Wilfred Owen, or Siegfried Sassoon. They have never read the books of authors such Eric Maria Remarque, Mary Borden, or Helen Zena Smith. But if those currently serving in the American Armed Forces were to have been enrolled in this course, Literature of the Great War, they would soon see that these poets and authors shared, and in many cases, suffered similar experiences. The uniforms are different, as are the global locations and national reasons for war. The equipment, capabilities, employment of the modern weapon systems are vastly improved across the century between the First World War and today. That said, so much remains the same: the individual soldier and his life amid the deadly chaos of war. More importantly, the soldier and the emotional and spiritual burden they carry after the shooting has stopped. I served for 30 years in the U.S. Army, deployed overseas for more than half of my career, fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, and never read any of the literature explored during this course. But now there is one overarching truth for me. There is a commonality of experience, regardless of when a soldier fought. Soldiers grapple with the complexities of warfare and its physical, psychological, and spiritual aftermath. The works of the poets Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, and other contemporaries of the early 20th century are foundational texts through which modern combatants articulate their perceptions of conflict, forcing a confrontation with themes of loss, trauma, and existential uncertainty. In examining the reflections of these historical voices alongside those of present-day soldiers, I find striking parallels to illuminate an ongoing struggle to comprehend the horror of war and its lingering effects on the individual psyche and societal understanding. First World War poetry serves as a poignant historical artifact that encapsulates the harrowing realities of combat in Europe between 1914 and 1918. Owen's vivid imagery and haunting language reflect the disillusionment experienced by soldiers as they transitioned from the romantic notions of honor and glory associated with war to the grotesque realities of trench warfare. His poem, Dulce et decorum est, vividly conveys the brutality and inhumanity of battle, dismantling the myth of noble sacrifice with stark, visceral depictions of suffering. Similarly, American soldiers today grapple with their own experiences in conflicts such as Afghanistan and Iraq, and they often echo the sentiments found in Owen's works. They confront the dissonance between societal glorification of military service and the psychological toll it exacts. An example that stays with me always is that here on the American home front, people will say thank you for your service, while at the same time 22 veterans a day commit suicide, but America rarely talks about this staggering number. As in Britain during the First World War, honor and glory are a common theme, but no one spoke of shell shock. Today in America, people are proud of their army, but look the other way when the harm war does beyond the battlefield becomes evident. The existential reflections of First World War writers and poets extend beyond the immediate experience of combat to probe the profound questions surrounding identity, purpose, and the moral weight of one's actions. Sassoon, for instance, wrestled with the implications of his own participation in warfare, expressing a deep sense of betrayal towards an establishment that glorified conflict without regard for its human cost. This sentiment finds a modern counterpart in the reflections of veterans who question the justification of contemporary military interventions, often articulating a sense of moral ambiguity and personal conflict. The psychological toll of warfare as depicted in the writings of Sassoon resonated deeply with me as I see soldiers of today navigate the challenges of reintegration into civilian life, where societal comprehension of their trauma is often lacking or superficial. The literature of the First World War is often an accurate landscape portrayed grief, loss, and fragmented identities. I wish I had read as extensively of this literature while on active duty, as it can serve as a touchstone for contemporary soldiers confronting their deployment and its aftermath. The combat support hospitals in both Afghanistan and Iraq could have been written by Mary Borden, as they are so similar to her book The Forbidden Zone. Medical professionals pushed beyond endurance to save those soldiers who came to them for care. The pervasive experiences of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and moral injury echo the sentiments of anguish found in the poetry and books of the First World War, wherein the psychological scars of combat are depicted with unflinching honesty. Just as Owen's verses give voice to the despair of soldiers witnessing the unchecked brutality of war, contemporary soldier experience reflects the struggles of today's veterans who, upon returning home, find themselves haunted by memories that do not fit neatly within conventional notions of being a hero. The existential grappling present in this juxtaposition illustrates not only the continuity of trauma across generations, but also the necessity for collective acknowledgement of these experiences. As a student in this class, the writing and poetry affected me deeply, as I could identify with so much of what these early 20th century writers and poets had to say about their lived experiences more than a century ago. I can see, hear, and feel the dialogue between the poetry and writing of the First World War and the narratives of contemporary soldiers, and how that sheds light on the pervasive impacts of warfare. Both historical and contemporary voices articulate an urgent need for understanding, for a transformation of societal consciousness surrounding the nature of combat and its aftermath. As the tapestry of current wartime experience continues to weave itself through soldiers into society, the echoes of First World War poetry remain a vital lens through which to examine the complexities of modern warfare, illuminating the nuanced perceptions of soldiers who are caught in the throes of their existential grappling. The honest and vivid writing and poetic reflections of the past not only bear witness to the horrors endured by those who fought, but also serve as a catalyst for contemporary soldiers seeking to articulate the intricate reality of their service. In both cases, the First World War and today, the profound implications of the damage of combat weaves together a soldier's identity and life. The struggle for meaning in the face of devastation, moral injury, physical wounds, and scars to the psyche transcends time and invites an ongoing conversation about the nature of sacrifice and the burden of memory.